with you and make it there. Now we're recorded. So maybe I
Okay.
can repeat what I just said actually on tape so you don't have to write this down. So my comment was that sometime between now and whenever that you do some one sample t-test comparing the means for your sample to the normative group. It will ask you for a number to compare your sample to, and you'll put in the number for the normative group. And do that for each of these scales that are in table. What table is this here? I don't remember. Can you see? Can you tell what table this is? This is not.
All right. I
Right.
can't. Maybe
Let me see
two,
if I
but
can.
it's
Table 2.
the measure.
Yeah, it's in table 2. So that you do this for each of the uh, tests you have on here in terms of whether there's a significant difference. And if there's a significant, and look at this, the acculturative stress, I mean, look at your East Coast sample, 20.75 versus 2.35. Are you sure that's right? My goodness.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
does it make a difference? Does it make a difference with the size?
um, it shouldn't make that much of a difference. No, it should not make that much of a difference. I mean, this is going to be a significant difference. So what I'm saying is do those one sample t-tests, and for those that are significantly different, then in your discussion, you'll have some fodder for, for discussion. What does it mean? What does it mean that the acculturated stress for this East Coast sample is so high as compared to your group? Why are your kids not so stressed? And particularly now, given that you've got a lot of these kids that are in primarily white and in heterogeneous neighborhoods, you'd think there'd be more acculturated stress. So what's that about? And that's where you would maybe describe who is in the norm group, and it's obviously going to be different for each of your 3 scales. You'll have slightly different norm groups.
Right, because actually I think that the reason why I thought that my study was, in terms of adding to the literature was because it was really exploring this idea among different groups, whereas a lot of the cultural studies seem to be more in homogeneous groups. So,
Right, and that's actually what's actually fascinating about the study, and particularly the serendipity that we have. That you have 3 groups that you're looking at here. You're having not just the predominantly white group kids, but you're having the other 2 groups, and there are some really interesting differences, which I really think speak to the issue of of what happens to a kid's identity and self-esteem in depending on which neighborhood you grow up in. And our kids really served well by being in this kind of neighborhood versus that kind of neighborhood. And if they're in this kind of neighborhood, what do parents need to do to help their kids with that fact that they're in a different kind of neighborhood than most of their peers? I don't know. I mean, I just think that would be a really interesting discussion.
right, yeah, so do I. Okay, so I like it. It's certainly adding more dimensions, particularly about looking at the differences between the norm group. I never thought about that, looking at the norm group and my group and looking at how this may explain why I'm not proving some of my hypotheses, right? Because if my hypotheses was like, especially like 2 and 3, where the hypotheses are not supported, that could explain it because of my hypotheses are based on the literature.
Right.
The literature could be based on the normative samples,
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if the literature is based on samples where kids are growing up in primarily black neighborhoods, predominantly black
Right,
neighborhoods, and there are
right.
all those issues, and your kids, my guess is, I don't remember this, are your kids socioeconomically more advantaged?
Well, I stayed away from that term deliberately because I think that creates a different type of conversation. So I tried to be very direct and just say predominantly white, predominantly non-white, heterogeneous, and not making any assumptions about what that meant.
But you know what? I think in some ways that may be a little problematic because from what I know of the literature, when studies are done where they look at just the race or ethnicity, and it turns out that race or ethnicity is predictive of whatever, that when people plug in socioeconomic status, the racial differences disappear. And I think that's pretty powerful. I mean, if you and I are exactly the same, except I'm assuming you're black. I've never met you. I'm assuming you are. You are, and I'm white. But, you know, we both come, it sounds like we come from kind of similar backgrounds. And so we're more alike than we're different. You follow
I
me?
agree.
You follow what I'm saying? And so the differences that people in the literature report between blacks and whites isn't because people are black or white. It's because they're rich or they're poor or they're middle class. And, you know, if you've got access to books and good schools and safe neighborhoods and blah, 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 you have a different experience, regardless of what race you are, than if you're living in cockroach-infested apartments and slum landlords and, you know, people getting shot in front of your door every day and blah, blah, blah. I mean, again, I'm stereotyping and like crazy, but there is support in the literature for the fact that the racial differences that we find in a lot of studies are not about race, they're about socioeconomics. So
I agree with that. I agree with that. So there's like 5% of my brain that does not, and I only say that only
okay.
but there's a pause only because what I'm trying to capture, which is probably another article that's not like dissertation, but what I'm trying to capture is that I think that the studies that you're referring to, and I've sort of looked at some of those as well, doesn't really capture like the subjective experience and the occulted strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think yes, that there is certainly there's advantages, and there's you know, socioeconomic sort of is an equalizer to an extent.
Yeah.
Right, to an extent. But I think that there is certainly, you know, an issue like my kid who has my daughter who's a black 6-year-old who has to deal with sort of like not having long straight hair because she's a black child with curly thick hair.
Oh, of course.
So those are the little occultative type of idiosyncratic things that are not always captured.
Right, but that doesn't take away. That doesn't take away from those. I mean, I think both of those arguments are valid, and I don't think they take away from each other at all. At all. Okay. I mean, I think that, you know, obviously all the racial stereotypes. I mean, you know, just to give you a quick little story about my daughter's best friend is black, and she's very dark-skinned, and she comes from an upper middle class family or upper class family even, you know, and has had all the privileges that, you know, anybody that my daughter grew up with have, et cetera, except that she's black. And she was in the subway in LA a couple weeks ago, and one of the subway officers came up to her and said, "Where's your ticket?" And she'd bought a ticket, but she's like searching through her pockets. I'm like, "Where's my ticket? I can't find my ticket. I can't find my ticket. Can't find her ticket." So they haul her off to jail, and they kept her in the holding tank for a day. Now, if my daughter had, and now I think she, you know, she also kind of said, "Look, I bought a ticket," and was a little argumentative, you know, whatever. If my daughter had been in the same situation, she would not have been hauled off to the holding tank. I mean, that's clear. I mean, she's, from the perspective of the viewer, she's still a black woman, and his stereotypes about what that means and buying tickets and whatever were activated by that experience. And, you know, and I don't know. So I mean, I know that kind of stuff happens all the time, and, you know, she probably grew up. I mean, I know she grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and, you know, was in school with predominantly white kids, and probably was worried about her hair and her skin color, and so she's very dark skinned, so she probably got a lot of stuff because of that, and blah 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 blah. So those two things, I think, coexist. You still with me?
Oh, yes, I'm listening, yes.
Okay. Anyway, so all I'm saying about this is I do think that, you know, that there are a lot of interesting conversations in your discussion section that you can have, and I wouldn't change, at this point, I wouldn't change your study at all. I'm so glad, A, that you did it, and B, that it came out, that, you know, that you had to get your sample the way you did because I think it's very, very rich, and it is about the internal piece, which is different from, what you experience, the privilege that you have by having more financial assets as compared to when you don't have those financial assets. I mean, there's different kinds of privilege, and that's one kind of privilege that you have for growing up and again, I'm generalizing because they're also predominantly white neighborhoods that are poor, predominantly white neighborhoods. Okay,
right,
so.
right, and that sort of also. So I was just so to your point, I was really, and I guess I was just being maybe too cautious about it because I was just trying not for it to get bogged down in socioeconomic, and that can create a whole different kind of chasm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do like where we're going in terms of looking at, because it just clicked to me, like, if my sample is significantly different from the normative sample, that could explain why this is not sort of, not anything as a failure, but why this is sort of more interesting than I thought.
It's much more interesting. Yeah, exactly. And so all of this is just fodder for the discussion. I think I told you this several conversations ago. Your discussion is going to be fascinating, or has the potential for being fascinating. You have a lot of really fascinating things to suggest. Now, we don't know that any of these things are happening. I mean, we know, what you found, but your speculation, what we just said, would be speculation. So, you're going to make suggestions. This might support this suggests this, it appears that, it may be that, you use that kind of language, but I think it allows for a fascinating conversation between you and yourself as you present it to your reader, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah. It does.
Okay,
so what I did was for hypothesis one, and when you go through this, you can, substantiate everything, but I think later on in the document you asked me to add the effect sizes. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So I did, if you can look at the hypothesis one.
Yeah, I see those. I see the effect sizes.
So,
and you know what an effect size is, right?
That is like the power, right? That's sort of looking at.
It's how important this. Just because a relationship is a significant relationship doesn't mean that it's a meaningful one. And an effect size is essentially telling you what % of the variance is accounted for by that particular independent variable on your dependent variable. And if you look at racial identity centrality, that accounts for 12% of the variance, which isn't bad. It's not a bad effect size. Mm-hmm. And private regard accounts for 15% of the variance. That's pretty good too. National ideology, 0.7%, not as good, but interesting nonetheless.
Right. So, okay, so I did that. So you can go scroll down, and so what I decided to do was I hope you, okay, so indication, okay, so then you can go down.
How much down?
Yeah, keep going. So that's the first correlation. You just passed the first correlation. We had all of them between racial identity and the racial identity and racial socialization. So hypothesis A, pretty much similar to what we talked about before. But what I did to satisfy that issue of style, what I did was the first paragraph talks about the total sample.
Okay.
The correlation and the regression for the total sample.
You're saying the first paragraph here of 1A?
Yes,
Okay.
And then there's a second paragraph that talks about the different.
Okay. Perfect.
So that. Oh, I'm sorry. Then you have the regression. Oh, will you go back up to the regression? So this is what's been giving me nightmares. Please. So, okay, go back to the table. I think there must be table 4. Go back down. Yeah, yeah. Table 4. Are your eyeballs on fire? Is that right or is that not right?
I'm trying to remember what did I ask? Let me go back. I have your other document underneath, so let me cheat. Let me cheat for a second because I got nothing left in my brain right at the moment.
because I saw a model summary on in Shell's book, but it asked. Okay, go ahead. I want you to think, and then I can ask my question.
Well, let me just find the table. Which now, because you remember the tables. So this is this. Is this one? No, it's not this one.
That's what you did. Okay, you see here, you said please look up, and then you said leave out the R square and just include the adjusted R square and the S asterisk, S values.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay, because this should be adjusted R square. Okay. Okay. You still with me?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, with your footnotes, you should always put both. You know, the P less than 0.05 and the P less than 0.01, even though obviously here the best that you do is P is 0.05, you still put both in there. That's just kind of a standard footnote. Put both.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, I always put both. Okay, so I have a question that I wanted to ask you. When the p-values are not significant, do I document that in the text, even though it shows, let's say like you know, for like table 4, and it's one of them is not significant, and when I'm talking about it in the text, do I still need to write the formula even though it's not significant?
I'm not sure. You mean, do you need to put all this information that's in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do need to, because really what I mean, even though it's kind of obvious. I'm sorry, I've got somebody printing on my printer that's sitting next to me. Even though it's obvious, you still want to put it so that people can see it in the text. So we see here that the predominantly white communities and in heterogeneous communities, there is a significant effect, and the effect size is quite sizable. But people that live in predominantly non-white communities, not only is it not significant, but it's really a negligible effect size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you still want that. So I want to make certain that you.
That's good.
You still.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. So okay, we can scroll down. Oh, you made a note that you every year you want me to report the adjusted on plan, which is what I made changes. So we go down to.
And you'll notice that the adjusted R squares are negligible, and in fact they are kind of effect sizes here. They're negligible for the non-significant findings, and they're quite healthy. You know, 17% on both. Oops, there's a period missing here. 17. I might as well make the corrections directly on this thing. 17% in both predominantly white and heterogeneous communities.
Yeah.
But negligible, not practically nothing in the predominantly non-white communities. Okay, great. Go on. So, what was your next question?
No, we're going down. We're going down.
How far down?
We can keep going. I just want to make certain that, okay, so this is regression. I need to add the adjusted R square for private regard, and
when I'm typing out square just because I don't want to go through the process of having the square, actually the superscript for square. So, I mean, you can type it out as square, or you can put R2.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we can just keep going down, and so this is for the private regard, and so again, positive relationship exists.
No, this has got to be wrong. This has got to be wrong. Your direction here.
Which one?
You've got, yeah, you've got greater than 0.1. This should be minus less than 0.1, right? Yeah.
Check.
Let me just double check. Yeah.
This is private regard.
Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Private regard. The private regard for the predominantly non-white communities, P less than 0.01 rather than P greater than 0.1. Wait, I'm a little confused about what this is here. Is that this table? No, it's the next one down, isn't it? Or is it? Where's the table that goes with that?
Yeah, right there. Oh,
This,
did I not? Oh,
you didn't put a table. Yeah. So this is the table that goes with that?
Oh, no, that's the one that, no, that's the one that, I must have left it out because that is nationalist. So I didn't do a table for that. So that explains some problems. I need to insert a table.
Okay. I'll just put over here. Put it in the middle. It's not a great place for it, but.
Yeah, okay. And then just double check that because but not among, not among.
Is this correct here too? I think this may be wrong. So I'm going to put question mark here. This is just before H1C. You've got among, appears a predictor, blah, 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 but not among participants from heterogeneous community, that P greater than 0.05, which may in fact be what it is, but it's...
I have a question. I have a question, Michelle. You see, like where you are?
Yeah.
When now this could be just my own naivete. I thought that, am I reporting the actual P scores, or am I just?
You need to, you need to report the actual P scores in the text.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. So that's
throughout.
Also.
Yeah. Let me put that. Let me just report actual P values throughout rather than just, because in the table with the asterisk you're showing that it's just, you're just comparing it to 0105.
Right. See, that's what I was doing. So I was like, okay,
right.
Well,
in the table you do it correctly. You did it correctly. In the text you actually need the actual P value off of your printout.
Okay, got it. In the text, okay. Okay, that's probably what's happening right there too.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's probably throughout. So go back through each one of these and put the actual P value rather than just the, okay. All right.
Well, okay, so that's nationalist ideology, this hypothesis. Okay, so that was the last one. Let me see if I have any questions for that. I didn't think I had any questions. So that's the regression for that one. And we can scroll down. Okay, so now let's get into the second hypothesis where I talked about, this was about occultative stress and identity.
Right.
And this was only centrality. This was funny. Only centrality was correlated with occultative stress, but it was in the wrong direction. It was not in the direction that I anticipated. So
meaning that the more occultative stress, the lower the centrality.
It was higher. So I was predicting that it was negative relationships. Like there will be a negative relationship between, meaning that as one go up, one goes down.
Right. So you're saying that the more more centrality, the more stress.
Exactly. That's what came up.
That's kind of interesting because the reason that's happening is because of your heterogeneous group, I suspect. I mean, in the total sample, because the only the heterogeneous group is and in a way, the folks that are living in the predominantly white neighborhood, all they got to do is be like whites. And the folks that are living in the black neighborhoods, all they got to do is be like themselves. In some ways, the guys that are in the heterogeneous neighborhoods, yeah. So, oh wait, no, I just made the opposite argument. Okay, let me think about this for a second. So the more your racial identity is the more, if you live in a heterogeneous neighborhood, The more
No, so
central your racial identity is, the more stress you have. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
right,
Because like I was
right,
saying, in the predominantly white neighborhood, the more central your racial identity is, you kind of know how you have to be to fit in there.
right,
And if
right,
I mean,
right.
because the neighborhoods are kind of homogeneous, and so whether it's homogeneous white or homogeneous non-white, you're pretty clear that you're black and what exactly that means, and it's very central to your identity and blah blah blah. Well, okay, so it's important, but you know what it means to be black, and so you're living in the white neighborhood. So you in order to fit in and not be stressed, you got to just do these white kinds of things every once in a while. Everybody likes you, and if you're living in the I mean, again, I don't know, I'm caricaturing a little bit. You live in a black neighborhood, and there's no stress at all because you know how to do it. The problem is in your heterogeneous neighborhood, you don't,
You have to choose. You have to choose. You have to choose. So it's the issue of, okay, which group am I
yeah,
really associated with?
yeah,
I'm more like this,
yeah.
that group,
So it's stressful.
and I'm not sure how to negotiate that.
Right, it's stressful. Sometimes I got to be this way, and sometimes I got to be that way. And how do I get, especially if you're a teenager and you just want to be liked, it's all you really want, and is everybody to like you, and fit in.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Right.
tough. It's tough. So I mean, that's how I would.
So,
That's why it's not negative. I mean, that makes really good
right.
sense in some way. And the others
But then
aren't. The others aren't significant at all.
significant. It's not significant,
Yeah.
right?
So the
that's what
fact that it's not significant, you can't say anything really about it.
Right, right. And so the other hypotheses for 2, I think the only 2A, which talks about centrality, is the only one that's interesting. And I say the total sample naturally goes that relationship. You went.
I'm going too far.
You go.
Sorry.
Yeah. And says that, that a culture of stress, but it's not in the direction expected. Table 7 shows that a positive relationship verb indicating the high levels of centrality related to high levels of stress. Maximum culture stress, all 3 domains is the only significant relationship that exists. This is not strong. Right, so you think about it, it's not really that strong, right? The effect size is not that high.
Well, let's see. What was it? Let me go back to it. So, and again, the reason it came out significant for the total sample was because of these guys.
Oh, right. We talked about that. You know what I didn't do? And maybe I could add that because I didn't really talk much about the heterogeneous group in that. So I could talk more about that.
Yeah. But I mean,
Would that be a place to talk about the group?
Well, not necessarily. That might be better. I mean, I don't know exactly what you have in mind, but it might be a better thing for the discussion as to why they came out that way, because you're really getting into the why question rather than the what. I mean, here you should report that was a you do, I think. A total group,
Although this is, I did not. I did not. Reveal centrality, confer centrality is not true, but this was true for all the neighborhoods. Okay.
And so this is incorrect as relates to the heterogeneous.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So I could just report on the what with the heterogeneous group, the why in discussion.
Why is in discussion? Results is just what I find. And the discussion is, what does it mean? You know what's odd about this? And it has to do with the sample size. And I would look at the predominantly non-white group and see what the actual P level is. My guess is it's not too far off from 0.05. Because notice that the correlation for the total sample is actually lower than it is for the predominantly white one. The reason it's significant is you have a much larger sample. You've got all 3 groups, and so it takes a lower correlation to be significant with a larger sample size. Here, your sample size is smaller, and so it's probably just missing significance. So when you get to the discussion, that may be something to talk about as well. Okay. Let me look at. And then that one's going to be hard to explain because really that one, I mean, if my racial identity is very central to who I, if whatever, and I'm living and I'm African American, I'm living in a predominantly non-white environment, I'm going to have more acculturated stress. Why is that? Okay, so that one's going to be harder to do something with when you get to that, if it's close to significance, which I suspect it is. And ditto over here. This one is probably close to significance also, and but maybe not. And that one's in the negative direction. So the more nationalist identity, if this were close to significant, the less acculturated stress.
Okay. Okay. So then, and so I think for regard and nationalist, it was just basic general statements that it was a negative relationship, but it was not significant.
Right. Okay. Should we go on? Are we still? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do centrality, and we'll go down.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we just did that one. Okay. So I don't know what.
I need to add in the. Do you want me to report? So you want me to? I didn't add the table. I need to insert the table. But do you want me to insert the numbers, even though it's not significant? I still need to report the numbers, right, in the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And,
so that was the question about 8. Is should you put it there? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So relationship between a culture of success and private regard, it was negative relationship, but it was not significant. Boom, 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 boom. Thus, it's not supported. It's not supported.
So
okay. And so I haven't done much with number 3 yet. I have to.
Okay.
So 3 and 4 stand to be amended. I just wanted to make certain that I was, as far as you're concerned, I was somewhat on the right track with making some of these.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So again, I feel much better.
Cool.
About what I have a better understanding.
And it remains a really fascinating study, Cynthia. I hope you hear that. It's good. I mean, I think you have several papers you could publish from this.
So can you send me this, what you
Well, you want me to send you what I got right now, even though I haven't really read it? I'm just picking up on stuff. Let me just do that right now.
Yeah, I want you to send it so I can have the little comments that you made, that I can have that.
Well, there's not a lot of them, but more importantly, how do I move this over? I moved it, and now, okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to email this to you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to send this back to you. So I'm not going to look at it at all until you send me the next iteration, okay?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's fine. That's fine.
All right. And I'm going to close this.
I had clarity in that it was not going too far.
I don't need this anymore, and you don't need that. Okay. And so when we're done here, it takes a little while for all this stuff to upload, but I will stop recording and I'll just send you the link. And then if you want to, or not, you can go back and listen to this as your heart desires.
I love it. That is so fancy.
I'm so glad I thought of it, because you're sitting there trying to write all this stuff down. It's like, why? Okay. But what else you got, Cynthia?
No, what I got is how much, is there a minimum amount of times that you can speak to your students? Because I would like
well,
I don't want to go overboard with your time.
After a certain amount of time, I start charging. No, I'm kidding. Of course there isn't. Okay. I mean, my goal is for this to be really great, and it's really great. So I'm excited about it. It's fun.
I feel very, like this is the most anxious part of the whole process,
yeah.
And talking to you neutralizes my anxiety a big deal.
I'm glad. That's
on
part of
many levels.
that's part of what I see as my job. It's like this should be fun. You're doing something that is really that I think is probably personally meaningful, and it's really going to be meaningful. It's going to be a meaningful piece of work, and
Okay.
it's really kind of neat.
So when can I speak with you again that you're comfortable with?
Up to you. Wait, do I have my calendar here? Yes, I do. You tell me what works for you.
Okay, so like Tuesdays are really good times. So either we can speak next Tuesday, the 9th, or on.
Okay, I can't next Tuesday because I'm going to be on an airplane, but I can do it on a following one. Because what I did is I told you I don't like to fly on holidays, travel on holidays. I'm going to go see my dad for a long weekend. So.
Oh, nice.
So, anyway.
Okay, so you want to do on the 16th?
Yeah.
That'd be probably your last office week, right?
Sure.
Is there a building closing? I don't
yeah,
know.
I'll probably need to take some time off.
Yeah. So okay, so if we could say the 16th.
Okay.
At this, today we met at 10:30 your time.
Yeah.
But it's fine. 10:30 is.
Yeah, that works okay for me. Okay. And I'll send you like I did now. I'll send you another invitation. Now, if you click on accept on that, it should put it right in your what do you call it? Your calendar function on your whatever that the program is called that you use for getting emails, your email program.
Okay. Yeah, because it's so weird how I think I got it one time, but then the other ones I did not get it. So okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy visiting your father next week.
Thank you. All right, Cynthia. Take care of yourself.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.